Hi everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov. I want to show you how I answer Cypress questions in our chat or from GitHub issues or from private messages. Although if you send a message to me privately, I usually will ask you to open a public issue so that everyone can benefit from an answer. So this user, Vicky, he or she is asking, hello all, is there any way I can print the value of an attribute to make use of it later? For example, if the attribute is title value, I want to print this value. That's a good question. You can select elements, you can get the attributes using Cypress query. How can you use them later? I try to clarify what the use is later. What do you mean print? Like into a command log? Maybe you want just to write an assertion. The user replied, yeah, actually, I want to save all title values in CSV or text file. Excellent. So the first thing I do in this situation is I go to our documentation and I search attribute. Can I store an attribute value in a constant? Well, that seems like it fits the bill. We can use closure variable, right? We point at variables analysis guide, right? Is there attribute example? Ooh, no. So one thing that I like to do is when a user is asking about a specific thing, like how do I use an attribute value? I want to have an example that shows that. I don't want to just say in general, yeah, you can use it, but I want to show the user so they don't search, they don't try to write one from scratch, and instead they can just, copy paste, but it should be tested and working. So the second thing that I do in this situation, I'll go to my Cypress examples demo site. So this is a public repository that just gets deployed to GitHub pages where I have a copy of kitchen sink test and bunch of recipes as well. So in this case, with a slightly larger examples than individual command example that answer questions just like that one. So in this case, there is confirm attribute of an element. And by the way, if I say element attribute, right, you can see all the places where I say, attribute and element together. So this recipe actually is found for search. So in this case, I'm showing for this HTML snippet how to confirm the attribute ID. So you can say, first grab the element, then invoke the jQuery method attribute, and then get the parameter ID, get a value. Or you can do first get an element, then use an assertion, and the assertion have attribute actually yields the value of that attribute, so then you can compare its value to what you expect it to be. And the last, example is that assertion have attribute can actually grab the attribute and compare its value in a single assertion. Great. So this is kind of similar to what the user is asking, but not quite. The user is asking how to get all title attributes from multiple elements. And this example only shows a single element. So let's go write one. So I already am in the right project Cypress examples. I have it open. I can go to the recipe confirm attribute, and notice this is just markdown. The code example is just HTML block, and all the test commands that you can see here are JavaScript code blocks. And the whole thing is surrounded by a comment fiddle. So this project uses Cypress Markdown preprocessor to find these fiddle comments. There is a fiddle start and fiddle end, and everything in between is going to be a test. This will be mounted as live HTML, and this is the body of Cypress test that will run against that HTML. So each fiddle is a test. We can run it by just opening Cypress. Everything is already configured to work against Markdown files. In this project, there are no JavaScript spec files, so we can say confirm to find that Markdown file. And when I click on it the first time, it takes a couple seconds to load the first time. But here's our HTML as text. Here it is mounted live. Here's our test. And this is our test running against that HTML. And notice, for example, how it shows the right element. Okay, so this is a good file, good markdown to start with. Why don't we add a header, say single element, and then we'll answer user questions in a separate section of this page, multiple elements. Okay, so we need some markdown. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy, paste, and I'll say confirm multiple attributes. And because I have to close the fiddle, I'll copy this comment, fiddle end. We don't need any text comment for now. And why don't we create a list, let's say, right? So we'll say list ID attributes, and inside that list, we can have multiple elements with their own titles. Now we need to write the test commands. If we just leave it empty, then there are no commands to run in this test. Now we don't want to run the first test, so we'll say for now fiddle only, which is equivalent to it.only. So we want to show the user how to get all list item elements and get their titles. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to say get li, gives us 3 list items, and why don't we immediately show a best practice? Should have length. Okay, I like using command and assertion one after another, like a zebra pattern. Okay, so we get our 3 items. Now we want to extract all the title attributes. So in order to extract, we'll create a local variable, and right now just an empty list. But now for each li elements, we'll say take titles and push li. And here we're just going to invoke a jQuery method for getting an attribute. Okay, perfect. So it did do something, but we now have to work with the result. But one thing before we do that, we want to assert that the title is not empty, that is a string. So why don't we say title, and we'll say expect title to be a string. Okay, now we can see what it extracts. I like adding assertions because they also generate the command log, so that if something goes wrong on CI, I can see what happened. Okay, so we extract everything, and after all elements have their titles extracted, now we want to do something like save it into a file, maybe confirm it. Now, I cannot just say write file titles, okay? Because by this point, the title is still empty, right? I want to do something with titles only after each command finishes. That means I have to use that. So here, because these are almost like component tests for me, I don't want to write anything. So I'll say work with field titles list, like save into a file or confirm values. Okay, so in this case, I can say expect titles to deep equal. Remember, this is an array, so we want to compare the values inside the array, and say first, second, third. Perfect. So what we extracted is actually what we expected. Okay, that's it. I'll remove only, and maybe I'll explain what happens. Confirm the title attributes from multiple elements by extracting array. Okay, because this text will become this page, so it will be under it. So that's why I need to explain what this test shows. That's it. We don't need this. Add multiple element attributes. example, recipe probably. That's it. This will be tested on CI, and if all tests pass, it will be deployed automatically, replacing this page. And then I will send the link to that page to this user answering the question.